It was a bright, clear morning in our village. The kind of day when the sun was already warm, but not yet scorching. A soft breeze swayed the branches of the trees near the river, and I could hear the distant hum of village life. Children laughing, animals being tended to, and the gentle rhythm of daily chores. Christmas was just a few days away, and the whole village was preparing for the holiday. Aminata was bustling about, preparing for the trip to her family's compound in the next village. She was always the heart of the home, calm yet firm, guiding the children with gentle words and steady hands. Her husband, Kofi, was a different man entirely. Strong, practical, and often dismissive of things he couldn't touch or measure. Faith, to him, was a matter of circumstance, not something you could rely on. I remember the morning clearly. The house was filled with the smell of roasted yams and the sound of Aminata instructing the children to get ready. Kwame, their eldest son, was already excited about the journey. He couldn't wait to see his cousins. Abena, the middle child, had already started planning the games they'd play in the village. And Athea, the youngest, clung to Aminata's skirt, asking if she could bring her doll. But as usual, Kofi wasn't one to indulge in all the holiday excitement. He had been working in the fields the previous day, and his shoulders were tense with the weight of another crop season ahead. "We don't need all this fuss," he grumbled, wiping his brow. "It's just a trip to the village. We've made it 100 times without any trouble." Aminata, as always, smiled patiently. "It's always good to pray before a journey," she said softly, gathering the family together in a circle. Kofi looked at her and shook his head. "Aminata, you worry too much. There's no need to pray every time. We're going to the village, not some faraway place." But Aminata didn't press it. She merely asked the children to bow their heads. And they did, though they were already thinking about what games they'd play when they arrived. As Kofi began loading the car, I saw Aminata stand silently for a moment. There was a subtle worry in her eyes, though she didn't speak of it. Maybe it was the way the wind had shifted that morning, or the way the birds flew unusually low to the ground. She didn't know what it was, but her instincts told her that something wasn't quite right. Still, she said nothing, trusting in God to guide them. The road was rougher than usual. The rains had come late that year, and the once paved paths had turned into stretches of cracked earth. The car, an old model, sputtered and groaned as Kofi pushed it along. The children were quiet now, sensing the tension between their parents. The road ahead seemed endless, but it was the only one that led to the village. It wasn't until we reached the bridge, a narrow, creaky structure that spanned a wide river, that things really began to unravel. As Kofi drove the car over it, the engine began to misfire. I could hear the sputter from where I stood behind them, my heart skipping a beat. Kofi cursed under his breath, trying the ignition again, but the car refused to start. "What is this?" he shouted, his hands gripping the wheel. "This car was fine yesterday." Aminata remained silent, but I could see her eyes closing briefly as if to pray. She didn't say anything, but I could tell she was troubled. "Let me try," Kofi said, his voice rising. But no matter how many times he tried to start the car, it refused to budge. The engine simply wouldn't turn over. By now, the sun was starting to dip behind the hills. The air had grown thick with the scent of earth and grass. It was growing darker by the minute, and we were still stuck in the middle of nowhere. "I'll go see if I can get help," Kofi said, finally admitting defeat. "Stay here." But there was no one around, just the distant sound of the river and the rustling of the trees. Aminata held her children close, and I could feel the weight of the moment in the air. She asked again, quietly, "Let's pray, Kofi. God will help us." Kofi, frustrated and tired, looked at her with a mixture of disbelief and exhaustion. "What good is prayer now?" he muttered. "We need a mechanic, not some words." But Aminata, despite her husband's doubts, gathered the children, bowed her head, and whispered her prayer aloud. I watched as she did so, her voice soft but firm, asking God to guide them safely home. There was a quiet strength in her words, something that even Kofi couldn't dismiss. He didn't say anything, but I could see the shift in him. Just as Aminata finished praying, we heard voices from the distance. Two men, local farmers from the nearby village, appeared at the edge of the road. They had been walking and offered to help. With their guidance, Kofi managed to get the car moving again, though it was clear something had gone wrong with the engine. It wasn't long before the vehicle sputtered and stopped once more, and we were left stranded on the side of the road. Kofi, now exhausted and feeling defeated, reluctantly agreed that they should continue on foot. With no other option, Aminata took the children's hands, and they began walking. The village wasn't far now, but every step felt like a lifetime. The children, once so excited for the Christmas festivities, were quiet. Kofi walked ahead of them, his back hunched, his pride deflated. Aminata, ever patient, didn't complain. She just led the way, her eyes fixed on the path ahead, her faith carrying her as much as her feet. It wasn't until they reached the village that the full weight of the day's events hit Kofi. As they made their way to Aminata's family's compound, they found that word had already spread. The neighbor, Sola, had told everyone that the family would never make it to the village. She had spread a rumor that something bad would happen, that it was bad luck for Aminata to travel this year. When Kofi heard this, his heart sank. He realized how small he had made himself in that moment of doubt. In the face of hardship, he had dismissed the very thing that had carried them through. Aminata's faith, her belief that prayer and trust in God could bring them through even the darkest moments. Later that evening, when the elder of the village, Mama Ya, heard the story, she called Kofi aside. "Your pride almost cost you," she said gently. "Aminata carried you, your children, and your journey with her faith. Don't forget that next time." Kofi, humbled, looked at his wife with new eyes. He didn't need to say anything. The weight of the day's lesson had already settled in. And from that moment on, whenever Aminata prayed, Kofi didn't question her. Instead, he quietly joined in, understanding now that there were things in life that couldn't be measured with logic, only with faith.